Football with the
Yes,
fellas.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We're back.
We are back.
We're back
We
in
are
the house.
back. We are back.
Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather. Please forgive my voice. I'm here 100% in spirit, but about 80% in voice. So we'll get to it. We'll get to it. So listen, Clay from Brooklyn, football with the fellas. Y'all know that. And who's here? Who's here with me?
I'm your man Mazo. It's all about Big Blue.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And as you see, I'm representing another content creator, local Giants content creator that I'm a big fan of. So shout out to them as well. New York Revival. You know, I got number love for y'all. But I wanted to talk about Maze. I know we've been saying we were going to do a show that kind of looks at the current roster. Right, there's been some turnover since the free agency started, right?
Big time turnover. Big time turnovers. I think sounds like we got some pretty good free agents. Now, I kind of like what's
we've added
happening
some
in
good
the
people.
defensive backfield. I kind of like what's happening there. So
We've added some good people, and the people we lost, at least so far this year, haven't been major losses like they were last year. We won't go any further on that. But this year's losses have been tolerable. And yes, some nice gains, some nice gains. So what I was thinking about doing, if you don't mind, is showing you a couple of different websites version of our depth chart, right? Because
okay,
our
okay.
obviously the depth chart is unofficial, so to speak, right? We don't actually know, who's going to be starting or whatever. But I do know that there's a lot of different places you can go um, to do that. So I'm going to start off with this one. This is ESPN. So ESPN lists the depth chart, which again, this is their perception of who our depth chart would be, what it would look like. They got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as the first two quarterbacks. Tommy DeVito is still showing up, although after the draft, his name may drop off or at least
I,
be in the fourth. But
he
yeah,
should
so
drop
this is
off.
what they consider to be our depth chart. The starters are in this column, second string, third string, etc. Now, again, shout out to ESPN for having this. I appreciate it. But I have to say, I disagree with somebody that they have listed as a starter. If you look down here, they've got Evan Neal listed as our right tackle. And they got Jermaine Illuminor as our backup left tackle. And I'm not having it.
We can't have that. We cannot have that.
We cannot have that. If that happens, I have a pitchfork that I can sharpen real quick and get it ready to run down to MetLife and express myself. I'm obviously kidding, but that would be a very big surprise and, in fact, disappointment to me if that was our depth chart. So yeah, they have a lot of things that they have listed. I like. They Chauncey Golston is one of the people we just added. They got him in
Oh
there.
yeah.
They got Jeremiah Ledbetter as a backup on the defensive line. I happen to think that Elijah Chapman might find his way into the starting lineup, but we'll see. We'll see. It remains to be seen. But so this is what ESPN says is our lineup. There's another one called Our Lads. Shout out to ourlads.com,
Oh
who
yeah.
does this as well. I mean, there's a lot of people who do it, but these are a few of the ones that I use the most. They, you'll notice, have Illuminor listed as the starting right tackle. And they don't even have Evan Neal as the backup, right? They got
Hmm.
Stone Forsythe as the backup. They got Evan Neal as a third string. So it's just interesting to see
Wow.
how different websites perceive things differently, especially this early in the game,
Wow.
right? So
Hold on,
Evan
but
Neal is
don't
the
move.
third string right tackle in
What?
their opinion.
Oh, is Jalen higher than this? Yeah, okay. He's okay. He's second
Yeah, yeah,
string.
yeah. He's right here. They got him backing up Darius Slayton. We know this new guy we signed, Zach Pascal. They have him backing up Malik Neighbors. This other new guy we signed, Lil Jordan Humphrey. They got him as a backup slot receiver. So basically, again, this is just a few different websites' opinions on what we have, and then there's our friends at PFF who we use sometimes for the mock draft. PFF has the lineup actually kind of like on the field, so to speak, lined up their perception of our starters at least. And you see they have Illuminor at right tackle as well. Um, and so again, when I look at potential teams to trade with, for example, I'm looking at all these kind of resources to find out, well, who is lacking somewhere, right? Who's
Right,
got
right.
weak people at a position that I think we can afford to trade someone like a Micah McFadden. So or a Tay Banks.
or Tay Banks. I think yeah. If we look at some of your the other episodes, I think
Right.
you were heavy on the Tay Banks.
I
Uh,
would be happy to move on from Tay Banks. And again, I think he's a very talented young man. I don't think he's going to make it here.
After the film study you did on him, I'm not sure he's gonna. It would be tough for him to make this team. It
It
would
would
be
be tough.
tough.
And sometimes, you just need a new start. You just need new surroundings. Uh, and that can be a wake-up call. And maybe that happens to Daniel Jones. Like maybe he gets out of the bright lights of New York City and gets somewhere quiet like Indy. Maybe he flourishes there. Maybe Tay Banks will join him.
But not in Big Blue, huh?
And not in Big Blue. But honestly, there's been a lot of it. Will Hernandez is a very good guard now all of a sudden. And he was struggling, to put it mildly, here.
Can't play in Big Apple.
That's just one example. There's been lots of people. John Feliciano was better after he left here than he was when he was here. There's been several people, especially on that offensive line, where we've had so much difficulty, so many struggles ourselves. But a lot of people, when they leave here, suddenly figure out how to play. Matt Parrott did better after he left here than when he was here. Ben Bredesen did better when he left. The list goes on and
I'm
on.
saying you're naming so many. I'm like, it seems like we might have kept the wrong people. And.
Or maybe we had the wrong people coaching them, right? Because maybe they didn't just suddenly become good football players. Maybe they just, between the coaching and the scheme, it allowed them to uh, put forward what they're good at, right? One of the things that you hear people say about what makes a good coach versus a bad coach is don't tell me what they can't do. Tell me what they can do, and
Right,
let's scheme towards that.
right,
Like, let's build on the things they're good at instead of complaining about the things they're bad at and keep making them do them.
true. Uh, True. That's a good, yeah.
So somehow we have not been able to maximize the potential of a lot of our players who went on somewhere else and had slightly better, if not significantly better, outcomes.
Well, this coaching staff better do something because they're on the clock. They are on the clock, which
The
is
seat is hot. The seat is
see
warm.
is really hot. I really wish that I wish we had gotten a new coaching staff and this that the seat wasn't hot because it's making this draft like we're trying to do two things at one time.
At least the general manager. Like I'm
Right.
I'm not sure that I'm ready to give up on Brian Dable just yet, but the GM, to me, it was time to move on. Because
He,
that's who's going to be making these draft choices, right? That's who's been signing the free agents. That's who's going to make these draft picks. If he knows his seat is hot, then he's trying to keep his job, which may or may not be in the best interest of the Giants for the next 3 to 5 years.
right. Right. I
You
mean,
hope he would do both, but that's not always possible.
nah. I I think that move when not only like funny when we got Jameis, we all got kind of excited. He figured, now we got a gunslinger out there. I know Malik Neighbors was smiling big time. And even I think Jalen Hyatt was even smiling a little bit. It's like
That
I got
even
somebody
bigger.
who can throw me the ball. He'll throw it in double coverage. I don't care, but
They
he'll
don't
throw it.
care.
And then when they went out and signed Russell, Wilson, it's kind of like this guy's looking like to win. I mean, he's looking to get some W's, which is what
Right,
we want.
right.
But
But do we need both of them?
no,
It seems odd to me. But now that we have both of them, I guess what it does is it lessens the pressure on drafting one at number 3 overall. So if that's the move, then I'm okay with that. It's concerning and it sounds like a desperate move from a guy who's in the hot seat. But let me put it this way: if we had just signed Jameis Winston and not signed Russell Wilson, and now it's just Jameis Winston and Tommy DeVito in the room,
right.
then he's drafting a quarterback at least in the second round, right? And he may have had to draft Jackson Dart with the number 3 overall pick.
And Jackson Dotson not at number
And
three,
he's not a number 3 overall pick guy, in my opinion. I don't
not
think
at
he's a
all.
first round guy at all, but certainly not a number 3 overall. I mean, I
No,
think he's going to go in the first round because of how desperate teams are for quarterbacks. But I don't think he's really a first round worthy player and certainly not the third best player in the draft. Not even close.
not even close. Not even close. but if you're looking at the draft right now, because of Cam Ward's pro day, the
and
Titans go the Titans
and his whole season.
right, and the Titans actually have him coming in so they can see him a
That's a done deal.
person on their
To me,
own.
that's as done as Caleb Williams to Chicago last
Right,
year. That's
right.
done.
That's
I
definitely
don't.
done.
It
That's
would
definitely
take a ridiculous offer, like our number three pick, and then two or three more first round picks, and I don't want to give that up for Cam Ward. I don't give that up
no,
for Patrick Mahomes.
no, no, no.
I mean, you got to have a team, not just a quarterback.
Right, right. But can you see? But and this is something I want to talk to you about. Is that okay? Now we had the quarterback room with Wilson in there and Jameis and say the two quarterbacks are gone before we get what do we do?
Right. So
Like
it's funny you should ask that. So those of you who may have come here from bigblueview.com, which is a place that I post frequently and have invited people to come watch our shows, know that I posted something recently about that very thing. And I called it, Can We Pull This Off? And let's see if we can take a quick look at Can We Pull This Off? So this is what I posted this week. And basically it says, if we are taking Abdul Carter at number three, because the two quarterbacks are gone,
you're
and
saying,
if
oh wait,
and
wait, you're
only
saying,
if,
wait a minute, you're saying we're taking Abdul Carter?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sorry, my bad. I didn't want to zip past that. I know you love Travis Hunter. I like Travis Hunter. I'm
We
not against taking Travis
we
Hunter.
got a twofer when you do that. We got a guy who plays some defense in the offense.
I'm fine with taking Travis Hunter, but I happen to think Abdul Carter would be an even better fit for us. And this is if we take Abdul Carter.
Okay.
And at the end of the fifth pick, Mason Graham is still available. So now the Raiders are on the clock and Mason Graham hasn't been taken yet. I suggested this trade. I suggested that we trade Kayvon Thibodeau, Tay Banks, and Micah McFadden, plus our third round pick for the Raiders' sixth round pick. Now, that's a lot to give up, right? That's three starters and a third round pick.
Wow.
But it is
Wow.
for the sixth overall pick. And I'm guessing that uh, a team giving up the sixth overall pick is going to want to haul back.
Wow.
So that's the trade I suggested so that we can take Graham. Now, just to say, why would the Giants do that? Because if we just took Carter, and I think Graham is the best interior defensive lineman in this draft. This is a deep draft at interior defensive line. A
It
lot of the
is.
comments that people posted back against my suggestion were, why do we do that in a deep defensive tackle draft? Let's just wait to the second round and we'll get a good one. And you're probably right. And I've been saying that for weeks. But this is just an attempt at a different approach. Because if we have Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Mason Graham, and Abdul Carter as our
Wow.
front four,
That gives us an identity.
that is an identity.
That is an identity we need.
I think that's the best front four in football.
Wow.
It's certainly top three, but I think that's the best front four in football. And
What
in
do you think?
fact,
What do you think also, if you take that front four you just had, that
right,
front plus the what we did in free agency with
with Paulson Adebo
right.
and Jeff and Javon Holland, right? That's and we still got Bobby Okereke, right? We gave up Michael McFadden, but we still got Bobby Okereke. And that's why I'm saying I would even put another defensive tackle on the field and go 3-3-5, right? With Burns, Okereke, and Carter would be the three linebackers. Mason Graham, let's say Elijah Chapman, and Dexter being the three interior defensive linemen. Good luck running or passing against that, right? We got those five coming at you all the time with Bobby Okereke like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, cleaning up any runs or screens or draws. Those five are going to get home against the run and the pass. Now, just because I don't want you to think that yes, I linked to some of our videos as well. Just because I don't want people to think that I just randomly picked the Raiders. Like, why would the Raiders do that? I did a little homework, right? I mean, I didn't just come up with them randomly. The reason I suggested them is because I know that they are weak at the positions that I'm offering them players at. So one of
Okay,
the comments I
okay.
put out there was their linebackers, Elandon Roberts, who they just signed from Pittsburgh. He's 31 years old. He only made 32 tackles last year. Micah McFadden made 75 tackles last year. Devin White, I mean, he looked good coming out of college, but hasn't done anything. Amari Burney and Luke Masterson and Tommy Eichenberg, 99% of people haven't even heard of those guys. Um, Micah starts on that team. Micah McFadden would start at inside linebacker on that team. That's their
Okay.
inside linebackers. Max Crosby is a beast. He's one edge player. But the other edge is Malcolm Kuntz, who missed the entire season last year due to injury, but in 2023 missed 21% of his tackles. And Tyree Wilson, who they've drafted pretty high but hasn't done anything, who last year missed 26% of his tackles. That's a big, I mean,
Wow.
a good player misses 10%, 10 to 12%. An elite player misses less than that. Micah McFadden misses about 15 or 16%. These guys are missing 21, 26%.
Wow.
That's Kayvon plays here. Kayvon is going to start opposite Max Crosby. And their cornerbacks are Jack Jones and DeCamerion Richardson. I watch a lot of football. I have never heard of DeCamerion Richardson before. And I looked up, their stats and whatever, and they're not just names I don't know. They're names I don't know because they're not that good. So I think Tay Banks starts there too. So that's three starters. So if you give them three starters and the 65th pick, first pick of the third round, I mean, they got to pay attention to that, right? If you're telling me that I can give you probably four starters, right? If your 65th pick starts also, I can give you four starters and in exchange for a sixth overall pick. That's one starter. I think they have to pay attention to that.
Could you give that trade again?
Yeah.
This
So Kayvon,
Kayvon.
the one I dislike giving up the most. That's the hardest one to give up. But if we just drafted Abdul Carter, not to say I don't want depth at edge. I would love to have Kayvon in rotation with them. But he's not starting anymore if we get Abdul Carter. So Kayvon, Micah McFadden, and Tay Banks.
Right.
Three starters on our team, right?
Three
So I'm giving up
starters.
three of our starters to become three of their starters. And the 65th pick, who we would hope would have started for us. So giving up a lot. But again, I would do it for Mason Graham if we already have Abdul Carter.
But we got two third round picks, don't we?
We do have two
We
third
get
round picks. We have number 99 also. That's correct. So we would still have a third round pick. It's just,
the first
back
round.
end of the third round. So we wouldn't skip the round entirely. You're right. But so that's a lot to give up. And I'm not saying that there's no pushback against that from either side, right? They might be looking for a quarterback. Now, if they're looking for a quarterback, they're not moving out of the sixth overall pick, right? If they're going to use that on, I mean, remember when Daniel Jones got drafted? Sixth overall pick, right? So if they're going to use that pick on Jackson Dart, let's say, then all bets are off. But they did just bring Geno Smith in there. So, I mean, he's not old. So
No.
you would think that they wouldn't necessarily need a quarterback at the sixth overall pick. Why bring Geno if they're not going to let him cook for a little while?
Man. Mason Graham, Dexter, Abdul Carter, and who's the
And Brian Burns.
and Brian Burns, right.
But it also and one of the comments I put a little further down was it lengthens Dexter Lawrence's prime. Because right now Dexter gets double teamed every play and triple teamed sometimes. And he came out in the 2019 draft, right? This is already year seven. How much, he's a big man, but how much of that kind of beaten down
Can he
can a
take?
man take for 7, 8, 9, 10 years? But if we get a Mason Graham in here, and like I said, and then put in like Elijah Chapman or DJ Davidson or somebody else, so now you got three interior defensive linemen. It takes a lot of the wear and tear off of him. Maybe he has 5 more years instead of 3
Productive years, so we're talking. Yeah.
productive years.
Right,
Like
right.
that's worth it by itself to me. People say if you get the right quarterback, it doesn't matter what you give up. If we keep Dexter Lawrence as the top 2 or 3, if not the best interior defensive lineman in football for the next 3 or 4 years, that maybe not quite as important as quarterback, but that's very important.
That would
I don't want him
be
to start breaking down because nobody's around him to help him, and teams just beat him up.
That would be a very interesting trade. I wonder, Big Blue fans, are you in favor of that? Would you do that trade? Put that in the comments, please. Let us know. Would you do that trade? Just thinking about that though, because the Giants need an identity. We've definitely need an identity. I mean, right now we identify as a team that's really terrible, right? That's really terrible, and actually like on both sides of the ball,
That's
we're really not that good. So we got to
that's
get
true, but
an identity, and what better identity than defense? That's what we've always been known for defense. So this,
when we were good,
yeah, when we were good, we were known for defense. So the trade that Cleveland Brooklyn is proposing would give us an identity on defense. Now, would you do it? In the comments, please. Put that in the comments. Yes,
absolutely.
yay and nay.
And listen, we're not going to fix everything this year, but we just got much better at quarterback. Our quarterback room is significantly better than last year.
Yeah.
So even though, we didn't make a whole lot of other moves, we would still have our second round pick, by the way. I didn't trade pick number 34.
Ah,
So if we wanted to use that on, let's say, an offensive lineman or a weapon, a wide receiver, one of those guys you were talking about earlier, maybe.
I want a wide receiver.
We could still make the offense a little bit better also with that number 34 pick. And of course, we still have the rest of the draft as well. But I agree, Mayzo, that what this does is it makes an identity on defense. And I think that's a top 5 defense, right? Those 4 plus what we just did in the back end, and we still have Bobby Okereke. Now, we don't have any depth, right? If any of those guys get hurt, the guy behind them is a significant drop off. And that's what next year's for, right? I'm saying our starters would be as good as anybody's up front
Yeah, that would be
and
good.
pretty good in the back as well. We're not going to the Super Bowl this year. We're probably not going to the playoffs this year. We're probably drafting in the top 10 again this year because we have the hardest schedule in football. But if we're losing games 17-14 and 13-10 because our defense is locking people up, I feel pretty good about that. And then next year, maybe we can address the offense. But we'll have a defense that's young and solid and strong. And that's the other thing is that would be a young defense.
Yeah, is
Other
it
than Dexter, that would be a young, good, strong defense that will be here for a while.
so then what with this move then is what you're saying is we are punting on looking at any quarterbacks in the draft.
Well, we do still have our second round pick. So if we decided to take Jalen Milroe, let's say, because I don't think Jackson Dart gets out of the first round, I just don't see it. But if we decided to take a Jason Milroe and redshirt him basically for a year or two, that is addressing that issue as well. But maybe we take, a wide receiver who, since we didn't draft Travis Hunter, a wide receiver who we feel like, would give Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston another target so that you can't just focus on Malik Neighbors.
We need another receiver. I just really feel like we really do need one. I just don't unless they use Jalen Hyatt, we need another receiver. We definitely need another
I
receiver.
hope that they get something out of Jalen Hyatt. That's what I hope. I hope that the Jalen Hyatt pick starts to pay some dividends this year now that you have quarterbacks that will throw him the ball down the field.
This is gonna that would just definitely be interesting. That
It
would
comes to me down to Andrew Thomas. If Andrew Thomas can give us 14 or 15 games this year instead of the 7 or 8 he usually gives us, because that first 5 or 6 games, that offensive line was looking pretty good. I mean, it wasn't Philly's line, but it was a solid pass pro line, and we just didn't have a quarterback taking advantage of it. Now we do. Whether it's Russell or Jameis, they're going to put the ball up and they're going to put it downfield.
yeah, I can see that.
And if you give them time to throw, the Jalen Hyatts of the world and the Darius Slaytons of the world are going to have their opportunities to shine. Now, whether they will shine or not is up to them, but they will have their chances.
Yeah, that's true. It's because the quarterback room, like you said, is much better than it was. It's definitely an upgrade from last season. I thought it was interesting that I was thinking that the Giants might bypass a quarterback in this draft, only in that even if they got Milrose, only in that a lot of Giant fans are looking for Arch Manning, which it's funny how they want him and he hasn't really played. I mean, he's played, but he hasn't like done anything yet.
And I don't think he's coming out next year. I think he's going to go back to college again for 2 years. So are we really talking about the 2027 draft?
Right.
I'm not ready to be bad for 3 years. And it's not like back in the NBA territorial rights days where you could just say, well, he's a Manning, so we get him, right? No.
No, I like the
Other
kid.
teams will notice if he's good. And what makes us think, unless we have the first overall pick, and we are the type of team who gets those culture wins in December, so we don't get the first overall pick. So unless we get the first overall pick, then how do we know we're going to get him anyway?
We're gonna
No, let's build this defense. Let's make a great defense as soon as possible. We have a better quarterback, which I think is going to make. We average 17 points a game.
17.
If our quarterback room alone is worth one more field goal a game, and I think it is, right? That's one more drive where we get into field goal range instead of punting from midfield or whatever.
But wait, we need a field goal kicker also. Wait a minute.
Yes. We need a kicker.
You're saying that we draft a good field goal kicker versus
Ben Sauls from Pittsburgh is a seventh round pick that I have in my sights.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. We're drafting a kicker. But I'm saying if we can get one more field goal a game, if we can score 20 points a game, this defense I'm talking about is going to hold a lot of people under 20 points. So we're going to be in a lot of games. And maybe that's how they save their jobs. You know, if we're 7-10, but the 10 losses were all,
close
one possession games,
right?
We're losing them, like I said, 17-14, 13-10 kind of games. I think that's a much better season. That's much more watchable than what was happening to us last year. And it makes you feel, like you said, like Giants football is coming back. Great defenses, and we'll figure out some offense.
It's funny how you said, because we're like at that, we'll be at that. You don't want to be in between. It's kind of like either you want like the 4 wins, it keeps you closer to the top of the draft, or maybe like 11, 12 wins, and then you're like, hopefully making the playoffs with that.
Right.
Everything in between, which the Giants will end up probably doing. Now we are in that quasi. I'm not getting.
But I think just for 1 year, though. I think just for 1 year. I think if we are a 6 to 8 win team this year, which is that, like you said, in the middle where you don't want to be. But if we do that for 1 year and we've got a great defense, then we'll be picking 10th or 12th or whatever next year. You can get a good offensive player for sure with the 12th pick. And maybe that's what we need, right? Is that one wide receiver or that one running back or that one guard that takes us to the next level so that we can average 23 points a game 2 years from now, right? We go from 17 to 20 this year and from 20 to 23 next year. And if this defense is great, 23 points is going to win some games. Plus, we won't have as killer a schedule in 2 years as we have this year. We can't. Like, nobody has as killer a schedule as we have this year.
I don't know why I can't understand why we have such a difficult schedule and we didn't play well.
Part of it is just
the other way around.
Part of it is just the rotation of the divisions you play against, right? We play against good divisions this year. So that's why. And so the year after that, we won't play against those teams anymore. Anyway, listen. It's been a minute. Let's hear what they have to say. Let's hear what our fans have to say about what we've had to say. We've said a lot. What do you guys think? Share, like, subscribe as always, but drop us some comments. I really want to hear what you think about that trade option. What did you think about the depth charts? Which depth chart did you think was more likely to be who we are come September? Again, obviously the draft is going to change that as well.
This one's going to be good. This one is going to be good. I can't wait to see what people say about that draft. Not that trade, especially giving up Kayvon Thibodeau. That's the part. Like,
I don't want to, but sometimes you have to.
It's gonna be interesting though. But hey, I like to hear from you though. I like to hear from everybody else. Definitely.
All right, guys. So as always, Clay from Brooklyn, football with the fellas, and my man here.
It's your man Mayzo. It's all about Big Blue. Hey, until next time, we appreciate you guys. Peace. big shout out to El Marquis Productions, the talent behind the music and production here at Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Their beats bring energy and excitement to every episode. El Marquis' skills in mixing, mastering, and creating top quality sound make the podcast come alive each week. For your own projects, check out elmarquisproductions.com and take your sound to the next level.